A long time ago, on a gloomy, wet Cleveland spring night, two men stand alone amidst the late-night drizzle. Their voices echo across the vacant station parking lot as they debate the merits of the great American radio show that have been missing for far too long. On that night, an idea was born. That idea became the FDH Lounge. Welcome to the FDH Lounge.
Welcome to mini-episode 10 of the FDH Lounge. Rick Morris here today, and I'm going to take a second here to introduce my fellow FDH Lounge dignitary doing the show with me because this is a very special set of circumstances, unique from our previous 9 mini-episodes and our 152 full-length episodes that preceded this, because we haven't done a show previously with one of our dignitaries, a member of our crew, coming off an appearance in a major motion picture, which is probably going to be up for an Academy Award next year, much less playing himself, more or less, in the movie, as is the case today. Now, Jake Digman, good friend of ours, longtime MMA correspondent with the FDH Lounge here. We've talked about these types of matters with him previously, but we've got him here today to talk about, we'll hit a little bit of MMA as well, but Jake is just coming off an appearance in the new MMA movie Warrior, so he has been in that. He's also done a little bit of promotional work with the movie, including having there be a premiere in the Akron area last week, so we're going to talk about that with him as well. A lot of great things here and very unique. So for mini-episode 10, Jake Digman, good friend of ours, what a great way to celebrate a milestone, number 10 here, a unique thing that you've been involved in here. So congratulations, and I'm looking forward to having our audience hear more about this.
Thanks, Ricky. And by the way, welcome to my couch. This is the most comfortable and the greatest interview I've ever been a part of in my life. This is cool.
It is. I love these mini episodes. We can do these from anywhere, and as I told you off air, we've done them from a couple of different places thus far. But I am visiting you here today to record this with you. And why don't you just let's just start at the beginning here. Take us back to this. Obviously, again, you are an MMA ring announcer, and that was basically how we see you in the movie. But what set you up for this? You've obviously been hitting the circuit here and primarily in the Midwest, but what brought you to the attention of the people that were doing the casting for the movie?
My good friend Rick Fike, who is in the movie, he plays the referee in the scene that I'm in, is a stunt coordinator. And he was brought on to be a fight staging coordinator with the picture. And they had run through like 6 or 7 different actors trying out to be the announcer for this part. And the director, Gavin O'Connor, wanted something that was legit. He wanted an authentic feel to it. So Rick recommended me. I got a call. It literally happened this fast. I got a call on a Monday morning that said, hey, you need to call Rick Fike about doing an audition for a movie. I called. I went to Pittsburgh, auditioned Tuesday. Found out I got the part, went back on Wednesday, did a wardrobe, filmed it Thursday, Friday. Saturday I was back in Akron announcing a fight show. Oh, it was literally awesome. As quick as that.
Really? Wow, okay. Because that brings me to what would have been a follow-up question, but it sounds like you're answering it there a little bit, because you and I had talked off air about a little bit of this and about a little bit of what went into it. And when I commented to you and having seen the movie about how it really was authentic and about how it was just like seeing you at an MMA show, so that essentially is what helped you get the role in the first place, the fact that you weren't an actor trying to be an MMA ring announcer, but somebody who's done this and is comfortable with it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that they strive for with the picture, and I think it's what made it. What part of the thing that has made it come across so very well with the audience is they wanted as much authenticity as possible. The fact that I am an actual ring announcer, the fact that Rick really is an actual MMA referee, and to have them in these scenes, plus a lot of the other fighters in there. I mean, other than Kurt Angle being a Russian, but hey, that's neither here nor there. But they wanted to use as much authenticness as to add as much credibility to the picture as possible. I mean, it's got that. I mean, the tap-out guys aren't playing themselves. And an interesting thing about even director Gavin O'Connor is in the movie. He plays J.J. Riley, the promoter. And at first I thought it was kind of interesting that he would have put himself in the movie. But I found out later on, with an interview that he conducted, that part was actually supposed to go to Charles Mask Lewis. But Mask had passed away right after filming began. So Gavin stepped in and took over the role.
Okay.
So thought that was a pretty unique bit as to how he got that part. That and the fact that he's a director, so he probably could have just said, hey, I want this spot.
Yeah, well, he did a good job in it. I mean, you and I had talked about this, that the casting of it really was incredible. Even right down to some of the roles in here. The guy that played the principal at the high school. He's a guy who's a veteran character actor, Kevin Dunn, who does a great job. I was kind of
that Kevin Dunn, is it?
Yeah, no, not,
okay.
Not the Kevin Dunn that Jim Cornette has a contract out on. That's somebody else altogether.
Okay.
And also the guy that played the one trainer in the movie also, Frank Grillo, remembering him as being Hart Jessup on Guiding Light back in the day. And I guess the guy's done a lot of other things as well. But the casting, top to bottom, really was great. You and I had talked off air about Hardy and Edgerton, about two younger guys, and maybe a little bit uncharacteristic that you're going to go with that way with the younger guys to carry a picture like this. But what a great job they did, and what a boost it's going to be to their careers.
Yeah, I got a feeling this is going to be one of those movies that over time it's going to be, it's already being praised, but I think over time people are going to look back at Warrior and they're going to be like, that's the movie that put Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy really on the map. I mean, coming up next, you've got Joel Edgerton's next film. He's going to be in The Great Gatsby, I believe, with Matt Damon, and Tom Hardy's going to be Bane in the next Batman movie. Mm-hmm. So those are two pretty big roles they're stepping into, but with the performances both guys give, this is definitely the start of a launching pad for two of, who I feel are, quite frankly, two of the next leading men in Hollywood.
Yeah, they both did a tremendous job in this. Now, without giving too much away here, the scene that you're in involves Joel Edgerton's character, so you were there at that fight. Talk about what it was like when you were on set, when you were filming it, and the atmosphere of it. It came across as very entertaining to the audience.
It was one of those things that was really surreal because, I mean, you're sitting on my couch in my apartment right now to go from that to being on an actual Hollywood movie set. And it was one of those things where, I mean, they had probably about, I want to say, 150 extras. I mean, they set it up to look like it was an arena. It was literally an arena in the back of a quote-unquote strip club. Which, not to give too much away, wasn't actually a strip club. Had really awesome Italian food, though.
Oh, okay.
And being on set, it was one of those things where it was really cool just to see, like, when the crowd, a lot of the fight scenes, and all of a sudden it was the crowd would cheer and go crazy and everything, and then they would stop and be cold again. We filmed it in, I believe it was May, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was May of 2009, and it was filmed overnight over the course of 2 days, and it was cold. I mean, it was like 39 degrees out, and you got these guys out there that are in fight gear. So in between takes, they would have blankets wrapped around them, be given like hot water and stuff just to warm back up. I mean, because I was wearing whatever the clothes I was wearing in the movie, and I was freezing. So in between takes, you'd have everybody like acting like it's a summertime, early fall setting, and then all of a sudden, and cut, and it was back to being a very, very cold spring night in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
See, that makes it even funnier as I think back on watching it, because one of the things that jumped out at me because of the setting, and we'll get to this a little bit later, that I had kind of kept myself ignorant of a lot of the details of the movie. All I knew was you were going to be ring announcing in the first fight scene there, but I didn't know what the setting was going to be. So the one thing where it wasn't a typical Jake Digman type thing. You weren't wearing a tux. You weren't wearing anything like that. Because it was in the vicinity of the strip club, you were wearing like a golf shirt type deal. So it's funny to think of that. Now, you would have been a little bit warmer, I suppose, had you been in your typical ring announcing gear of a tux or something, but that would have been quite out of place for the setting that you were in, I think.
Yeah, it was, and the funny thing is that was the first time I ever announced not in a tux, so it actually kind of threw me off for a minute. I'm like, I think I said to somebody once when I was out there, I'm like, yeah, I'm not used to not wearing a tux. I go, well, you going to be fine doing it? I go, no, I'll be okay.
Did it affect your muscle memory any?
No, it ended up luckily working out okay.
I didn't even realize that about the climate till you just told me that now, but it was a tremendous scene there. And you had said to me, and we'll give this. Here's a little Easter egg for anybody watching the thing here, because I missed it the first time through, and you said you missed it the first 2 times you watched it, but you are actually visible beyond your appearance there as the ring announcer with the subsequent fight scene.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of more proud of that part. The fact that I actually get a shot of me in the corner sitting next to, and I forget the gentleman's name that I'm in the scene with, plays the promoter. It turned out to be one of those things where nothing was in the script for us to do. Mm-hmm. We were just kind of sitting there watching the same thing over and over again. It's like, well, act was kind of like the first thing that popped into my head. So we just started ad-libbing stuff, and one of the things we had ad-libbed ended up making the final cut of the movie. And look, the third time for me to see it, when I finally noticed it, that I actually have an off microphone speaking line. I'm like, I was actually more proud of that one little line than I was of the performance inside the ring. But it's pretty funny. Everybody asks me, what is my favorite fight I've ever announced of all time, and my favorite fight's the one that's not even real.
Yeah, well, obviously, it's the one that's seen by the most people as of right now, anyways, and continuing to build with the movie being in circulation. That really it's interesting to me that you weren't coached on that, because in a sense, once you sit down, once you're there, I mean, essentially you are in the position of being an extra. And the extras are certainly, I would imagine, I've never been on a set, but I would imagine are coached on these types of things. So it's good that you picked up instinctively on what you needed to do to blend in with the scene.
Oh, yeah, it's one of those things where I have a chameleon ability that wherever I'm at, I can kind of blend in and as they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those situations where it was like, okay, this is what I am playing the role of, and what would an announcer behind a strip club do at a fight? Probably cheer, and probably get into it and watch the fight and be totally in tune to what was going on. So that's kind of what I did. It was a lot of fun, too, because once the action's rolling, everybody, all the extras are just cheering, screaming, while like they're watching the most important fight of their life. So I kind of got caught up in the crowd atmosphere with it too. It just made it made the time go faster, and it made it a lot of fun just to sit back and just cheer. And nobody told me not to once we were doing it. Mm-hmm. So apparently somebody liked something, and it made the final cut. So that was pretty neat.
That is pretty sweet that made it in there. So you said May of 2009 was that part. So. Obviously, and again, you stayed connected to this thing through, and we'll get to that in a little bit here about some of your promotional work regarding the movie. But what were you following as it was going along here? I mean, how were you keeping on top of what was happening? Did you have a real good sense of what was happening in the other parts of the movie, or how were you following this through the process?
I was sent the script, but the only thing I ever read was my own part, because once I found out what the premise was, I didn't want to know, quote, who wins.
Okay.
I wanted to, watching it just like everybody else, I wanted to be surprised and to see where it was going. As far as your question of like following with everything that was going on, I first heard, to go back, I actually thought that it was just like forgotten about, because it was filmed so long ago, and we'd seen like The Fighter had come out after that, and I think it was Never Back Down, or one of those fighting movies came out. Heck, there might have been one called Fighting that came out.
Okay,
and a couple of other MMA movies, and I'm just like, great. I started to see an influx of MMA movies coming out, and the last thing I'm like, I didn't want this to be like clustered in with all of those, because every one of those got really horrible reviews. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I haven't seen any of them, because I heard that, with the exception of The Fighter, I heard they were all pretty bad. So I was following everything that was going on, and I thought this was going to be like something that was, maybe if luckily it'd be sent straight to DVD. And earlier this year, probably about April, I saw a review that popped up online that one of the Hollywood websites got a chance to see a very early copy of it, and they were absolutely praising it. And they were talking about, this thing should be considered for Academy Awards. Nick Nolte's performance in this is absolutely incredible, and the person who wrote it wasn't an MMA fan. And anybody who follows the film industry knows that they don't let stuff like that leak accidentally. Mm-hmm. They know that's out there. When something like that's all part of a strategic marketing plan to get the thoughts planted in your head as early as possible. So the fact that was out there, it's kind of like the first signs of guerrilla marketing using the social media network. Because something like that ends up on Facebook, Twitter, which has completely changed our lives, which is another story for another time. But followed it through there, and then as it got closer and closer to the release date and everything, the positive buzz from people, critics, and different members of the media, it started to get an even bigger buzz and a bigger buzz and a bigger swelling. And finally, when I had a chance to go see it in Pittsburgh, I was absolutely blown away. And it was one of those things where just follow something from doing it, other than it's gone, and it's almost like a phoenix just resurged out of nowhere. And now it's taken on. It's one of these things where it's not going to be Avatar at the box office, but at the same time, I think it's going to be one of those, as I said before, it's going to be one of those films that over time, it's going to be held in such high accord and high esteem, especially by members of the MMA community, fighters especially. I mean, I think when this thing hits DVD and Blu-ray, that's when we're really going to see it pick up steam. And also, the movie's being released internationally. There's already pre-screenings going on, and September 21st, it's being released internationally. And with all the positive momentum coming from the American release, there's a huge buzz right now internationally, and I got a feeling a movie like this is definitely going to go over big time with the international audience. That and the fact that it's kind of interesting that both actors are international actors.
That's true. Yeah, there are a handful of those in there as well. And again, you guys in the MMA community are very fortunate to have a movie like this representing your sport. I can tell you, for example, as a scratch bowler, Kingpin did nothing for us.
Kingpin rocked, though.
It was funny.
That was so much fun. Randy Quaid.
Funny, but I mean, it did not do for anybody who was either a pro or, in my case at the time, an aspiring one. It did nothing for our image, as this movie does. All right, it did nothing at all for that. So there's a little bit of compare and contrast as I see it.
Were you ever Amish?
I was not ever Amish.
Oh,
no.
okay.
Spent a lot of time in Amish country as a kid.
Yeah,
which is interesting. Yeah.
Good cheese.
Yeah, it is good cheese. Good fried chicken for whatever reason.
Is Alpine still open? You remember Alpine?
Alpine.
Yeah, Alpine used to have this awesome cheese. And I remember when I was a kid going down there, and they used to have the train that went.
Is that the
through,
place with the watermelon hard
yeah,
candy? Yeah.
Let's rock.
I don't know if they're still open or not.
There's a giant cuckoo clock on it.
I didn't remember that was the name of the place, but yeah, that's
a little off tangent.
Hey, there's nothing off topic in the FDH Lounge, but you said something that made me wonder here in terms of the movie getting shot at a certain point in time, and then, as you said, it kind of slipped from your mind a little bit. Were you following what made it go on that kind of slow path there? Was that by intent, or was that where they just circumstances changed and they needed to film it slowly?
I got to believe it was by intent. I mean, nothing was really said about it when it was released. I got to believe that was probably the choice of the director and also the studio. Again, this is all coming just my personal opinion. I haven't heard anything from anybody about this.
Okay.
But I think they wisely realized that there was so many other movies that had just come out, and they didn't, like I said before, they didn't want to get lost in with all of those.
Okay.
Because, I mean, even, Rick, you went and saw the movie, and we talked off the air about this. You don't have to be an MMA fan.
Right.
I mean, if you are an MMA fan, it helps huge. It makes it a lot more fun. But the story itself, it's beyond just a movie of like, I'm going to become a fighter and I'm going to achieve my dreams and I'm going to be a champion. And that was kind of like the plot to every other fight movie that's out there. This one hits more of an emotional chord. Like, the only thing I can really compare it to that I've seen is Rocky, where it hits the fight's there, but like even in the original Rocky, it was set up where the fight was the backdrop story to that. It was more like the story of the underdog that climbs up, and there's very similar characteristics in Warrior as well, with being the underdog, from the underdog to the actual fight to there being an underdog element in that it's a small movie from a small time, not only small time, but a smaller studio, and it's going in there and it's going up against these big juggernauts and to see how it can do. And the film industry, the only thing that really, two things that matter. Number one is the box office, and number two is on the Academy Awards and what the Academy thinks, which I would love to be in the Academy, by the way.
Yeah.
That is the most like secretive society there is. It's like the Academy thinks this. Who is the Academy? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I wonder that as well. I mean, it's there's a lot of I get directors out there and.
That's more secretive than the Bilderberg Group.
It is. More about that a little later. I got a Ron Paul question or two that I want to ask you. That's a premature segue there, Mr. Digman, but we'll get to that as well. As far as it goes with the movie here, and another thing that you and I had discussed previously, I went into it. I was a lot more unspoiled than most people were vis-a-vis. I tried to keep myself deliberately ignorant of this. Thought it was going to be an MMA Rocky movie, and I don't necessarily say that in the positive sense, in that everybody just rehashes the same sports movie. So I'm like, okay, this could be pretty good, but it's probably just another one of these Rocky movies. So I went in there, and I didn't even know whether or not the two brothers fight in the finals or not. And for the sake of anybody that hasn't found that out, I'm I'm going to not address that. I'm going to say the movie was so well done, you could have made a case for it either way. You could have made a case for they meet in the finals or they don't, and one of these two estranged brothers avenges the other brother in the finals. So they might have given you too much information vis-a-vis the trailers. That was kind of my sense, because I had less information, and I'm sure I enjoyed it more with that being the case.
Yeah, I heard a lot of people say that they released too much information in the trailer. When honestly, when I first saw the trailer, I'm like, you kind of pretty much you spoiled what's going on in the movie. But at the end of the day, it didn't really spoil what's going on. And I get
right.
like the marketing campaign to the fight audience was selling it as like, hey, they marketed it as a fight,
sure,
like the fight between the two main brother characters, as opposed to the tournament. Which the only real negative that if you knew that, it was kind of like watching as the tournament scenes, you already know who's going to win, so it's just a matter of, how is this person going to win and what's the odds going to be. I'm almost kind of more envious of the situation of yourself where you're going in, you're like, you have no idea what's going to happen, as opposed to, who's going to win this and who's going to be going on to the next round. Like you said, one brother could be avenging another brother. Anything like that, but overall it came out very, very well, and it got to give full credo to Gavin O'Connor, who wrote and directed the film, and he's another one. We were talking about the Oscar season. I mean, I think he really deserves to have some serious consideration as a nomination for Best Director.
Just amazing, and of course, as we discussed, Nick Nolte as well for Best Actor, because again, I was blown away by the writing of it. Again, going in there thinking, okay, probably in the Rocky formula. Boy, I had no idea it was going to be so well written, and there's twists and turns to it, but they all flow realistically, in my estimation. Everything just seems to build really, really well, and again, the writing itself is just such an achievement.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can tell that they did a lot of time and research studying like the different aspects of what it's like, the life of a fighter, and the duality of both characters, how they both come from the same upbringing. Nick Nolte's the only one who could play his character. Yeah. I mean, if for nothing else, go see this movie for Nick Nolte's performance. It is the only thing I can compare this to. This is going to do for Nick Nolte what the wrestler did for Mickey Rourke's career.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where you look at it and it's like, wow, I can't think of anybody else at all that could have given such passion, because it hits so close to home. The character that he plays, Paddy Conlon, I mean, it's almost like you mentioned, you're watching Jake Digman in the scene I'm in. It's like you're watching Nick Nolte.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, the scenes with him as the recovering violent alcoholic who's trying to make it up to his family. By the way, we've got our FDH review up at the FDHLounge.blogspot.com, so I've got a full review up there as well. But I said in that review that just what he did, it was really very poignant, because again, you're expecting the MMA movie part to it, but there is such a tremendous family drama that's grafted right onto that, I think, pretty seamlessly. And it's a thing where it evokes a sense of being able to see things from the point of view of many of the characters, because there are times when, honestly, you kind of wince at what one of the two sons says to him or whatever, and then you think of everything that they went through back in the day, and they're seeing him as the totality of what he's always been, versus we, the audience, are only seeing him as the sympathetic character of today. So just all these different things. You can sympathize with different people, even when they're behaving in some instances unsympathetically.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things, too, where it has very much a pro wrestling aspect to it, in the fact that the characters are all tweeners. Like, that's
true.
There's no heel. I mean, there's moments where they act very
shades of gray. Yo.
Yeah, it's very shades of gray. I mean, when watching it, I mean, there's no real baby face. There's no really good guy, bad guy, which is interesting. In almost every movie, you have a protagonist, you have an antagonist, and there's really not an antagonist. It's that's one thing I love about how they did the promotion for it. It's like, what do you fight for family or for country? And those are two things that hit a raw emotional core with people. The two most important things for a lot of people, God and country, family and country, and some people especially with you have members of the military and how held in such high esteem that the military is in this country, as it should be. Thank you guys, by the way, for doing a job that I would never want to do. It is very much appreciated.
Absolutely. They're my heroes, too.
And also at the same time with having the opposite side with family and people, especially with today's economy, people know what it's like to, have to be told, hey, you're losing everything and you've got a family to support. You're going to do whatever you can in order to provide for them. So it hits that nerve of which side would you fall under? And I think that's one of the things with the audience going in. Like, for example, friends of mine who did serve in the military, they can absolutely relate to the Tommy Reardon character. I know people that have, myself included, have lost jobs. I mean, I can very much relate to the Joel Edgerton's Brendan Conlon character, and I think even the Nick Nolte character. I mean, people that have battled disease and seen what goes on with something like that, they can relate to it. So as you mentioned before, there's a little part of each character that people can relate to. Heck, even Jennifer Morrison. Being in the fight business for 5 years, you've no idea how many times I've was sitting cage side and watched as girlfriends or wives watched as their husbands or boyfriends are in there fighting, and you see the reactions they have, and they're literally feeling every single punch that takes place. And she does an excellent job in coming across of what it's like to be the wife of a fighter and what they go through and the difficulties of when they come home and dealing with the black eyes and the various different things of what it's like to see them go in there and get beat up for a living.
The nuances of it were so very well done, no question about that. Now, subsequently, the movie gets ready to come out. It's in the pre-promotional stage here this summer, and ultimately, you ended up being involved in helping to get a premiere, actually not too far from where we're sitting, the Highland Theater here in Akron, in the Highland area of town. And subsequently, I know that from following on your Facebook wall, there were some ups and downs through the process here. At one point, you seemed pessimistic what was going to happen, and then subsequently it did. I see the triumphant picture up there, you posing with Akron Mayor Don Plasqualik. So walk us through the process here. Yeah, how that came to be and your efforts.
It wasn't a premiere. It was an opening night party.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where when I first filmed this 2 years ago, my thought was I want to do this. I want the Highland Theater to play it, which the Highland Theater is literally, for those listening, is my couch is right here, and I could hit it with. We can look out my window, and you can see the Highland Theater.
Yeah,
that's how close it is to where I live. So, I had. First thing I had to do was get in contact with the owner of the Highland Theater, which that was a chore in of itself. It took me about a year to finally track him down, talk to him, and I called like 5 or 6 times, especially throughout the summer. It really started getting, to the point where I'm like, okay, you have to show this, explain the situation. I finally got through to him. I explained to him who I was, what I was doing, and he gets so many people from around here that call him that say, hey, I want to do this at the Highland Theater. I want to do that. He looked up the movie. He goes, "Wow, you aren't lying. This is actually it's a real deal film." So he liked the idea. He told me the only issue that was going to come about is if they could find a print, because they only had a limited number of prints that were out there for the film. I go up there the Friday before it was being released. That Friday there was the poster. I didn't even know they got it. We hadn't even communicated yet, and the poster was hanging up in the window. Well, all of a sudden the buzz came about and people were talking around. They'd seen me like, hey, you got your movie in there. People had followed God bless the Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to say anything, but people knew what was going on just by wonderful human behavior studies. That's another conversation for another time. So I started doing the promotional work for it, and then I got a call, poster up Friday, started doing everything around here to promote it to everybody. Local businesses were excited. It was an event. Monday morning, I got a phone call that Lionsgate had pulled it because they were only going to be releasing in a certain number of theaters, and they found no reason, and rightfully so, in looking at numbers, to have it here. Mm-hmm. Well, that wasn't really going to work because now I had a huge buzz going on in this neighborhood. I had the backing of so many different people. Monday morning, the Ted, who's the owner of the theater, he gives me his contact in New York. I call him a representative with Lionsgate. He directs me to California. I call one person out there. I talk to her. I explain the situation. She connects me with her boss out in California. Mind you, I have no idea who the people I'm talking to are. I later go on to find out they're like the vice president of theatrical advertising on a national level. There's like I Google searched them and found out like they were cooed away from Disney and stuff like that. So, but I was standing my ground with it because I had already done the promotion to it, and I knew it would be a good turnout. She directed me to a gentleman by the name of Michael Farmer. Michael Farmer, he tells me I got to talk to the distribution department. He comes back with an email and says there's nothing I can do. I'm like, well, that's not going to work. They said you got to go to Regal Cinema or you got to to these 2 Regal Cinemas. I very politely sent an email back. You don't understand. The people of Highland Square will not go to Regal Cinemas. I'm in the movie, and no offense, Regal Cinemas, but I'm not going to go to Regal Cinemas, especially the fact that I have it right there.
Sure.
I mean, we've already done the promotion behind this. So I explained the situation of what happens, and I think the line that really got him was when I said, at Regal Cinemas, it's a movie. And Regal does a great job, and it's an awesome place, and go check out films there. But in the Highland Theater, it was an event. And that's what really got him. And I got a call the Friday before, after everything had been said and done. And, I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that was involved that I didn't really want to get into. I mean, I used the Art in the Square, told him that Art in the Square was going to be promoting it, which we did promote the movie at Art in the Square. And on the Friday before release, I got a call, and they had brought the movie back. And they were putting it back in the Highland Theater, and I emailed Michael, and I told him thank you for all the efforts. And it really was a big accomplishment. I was very proud of the fact that I could do something like that and to bring this back, to lose it like that, and to get the movie to be brought back here. I mean, this is where I'm from. And long story short, by the time it was all said and done, they knew who Jake Digman was. They knew that he lived in Highland Square, and that people in Highland Square are a very, very we're a very close-knit community. We don't really, we don't have a Starbucks. We have an Angel Falls. They tried funny story about the neighbor, your first time in Highland Square.
I think it is, actually, yeah. Nice area.
They tried to put a Taco Bell on the corner here, and the citizens fought it. They said, you'd be amazed at how, like, Chipotle, it took them forever to get Chipotle in there, because the citizens, we don't like corporate things here. It's a very much a throwback to old school neighborhoods, but you don't have a lot of those anymore. So, it's kind of cool in the fact that I got to rally behind to use the film and rally the neighborhood like this, and to be able to bring something like this back here to where I live and where I'm from. I mean, I went to high school right down the road. This is home to me. So it was pretty cool when all was said and done that I was able to do that. And the tagline of the movie is, "What do you fight for?" Well, apparently I fight for Highland Square.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because guys like me and you that also have an interest in some things with politics and sociology, it seems like there's kind of a tie in there to this whole thing of art versus commerce and everything like that. And essentially the case it sounds like you made to them successfully is, I understand that in most places you're going to get more bang for your buck with the mass production, Regal Cinemas, commerce, etc. This is the one corner of the universe, or one of the few, it seems like, where art's going to win out and be more successful, and it sounds like they bought it, and you were right.
Yeah, and I mean, it was really cool that they were willing to go along with that, and they heard the fact that they heard my case, and they listened to it, and they actively sought out a solution, and they found the solution. So major thank you to everybody at Lionsgate Films for allowing us to have our event here. And it's been an event. The entire week, it's been the course of the past week, it's been up there. It's going to be planned for another week at the Highland Theater. And, I mean, every day I have somebody who come up to me and they talk to me about it, and it's pretty cool. It's one of those, being in conversation, standing there talking to a buddy of mine, and all of a sudden it comes up, hey, he's in that movie right now. It's in the Highland Theater. You should go see it. And that's the cool thing. We have awesome friends. Like, when your friends will sell something for you. I'm actually a very humble guy, so it's kind of odd for me that I don't really like to stand outside and be like, hey, go see this. Hey, go see this. Mm-hmm. It's not me. So it's one of those where it's really cool that the friends of mine that have seen it, and people come up and they talk about it, they're the ones saying, like, hey, you need to go see this movie. I mean, it's an awesome film, and oh yeah, there's Attack of the 50-Foot Jake Digman, and that's worth it enough alone just to see that.
Well, you and I were laughing about this also, too. You get some other things happening of people finding out about it. Perfect example, two of my partners with FDH, Jason and Samantha Jones, now out in Denver. He used to live here in Cleveland with us, but out there, and sometimes word's a little slow to reach, I guess, sometimes. Jason saw on my Facebook page the other day about this when I was talking about this. Wow, Digman's in that movie? I got to go see it. I will be telling random theater goers, I know that guy. And I know you got a laugh out of that, but you're probably hearing things like this happen all the time.
Oh, it's pretty cool, especially having been involved in the fight business as long as I have, and knowing that in this area especially. I mean, there's so many people that go see it and they that don't know I'm in it. So when all of a sudden the scene pops up, I had a friend of mine tell me that
would have been a shock.
He's watching. Yeah, he's watching it. I've had a couple people tell me they're watching it. All of a sudden, he literally screamed out, "Holy shit, I know him!" Like in the middle of the theater. Everyone just looks at him like, "What's this guy's issue?" He's like, "Holy shit, that's Digman!" And I mean, that's really, really awesome. The fact that getting that kind of an audience reaction and people see this and the positive momentum. I mean, this is I've dubbed this the Irish Summer of Punk for many different facets to that name, but it's very, very true. This has been an absolutely amazing summer. It's faith. I have faith in the people around me, and I have faith in positive energy, and it's been working, and it's been a groundswelling. It's been growing and growing, and it's a funny story on that, mentioning good things that are happening and people's reactions. My roommate Rachel, who's in the other room right now looking up stuff on the computer, we were having a conversation talking about faith and having faith in my friends and good things happening for good people, and she goes, when it comes back on you, it's going to be tenfold, like in ways you couldn't imagine. And all of a sudden this comes out, and the amount of people just seeing the reaction, my friends, my family, they're all so genuinely happy for that they know somebody for something like this that could happen for someone. And I just feel lucky and blessed. And I mean, I got so many friends of mine that are doing good things in their lives. They've got friends of mine, heck, tonight, 2 friends of mine that I've known forever that paid their dues in the MMA business around here, just like I did. One of them is fighting in the co-main event on MTV2 for Bellator, Brian Rogers, and Donnie Walker's fighting in the UFC tonight. It just shows with the power of positive energy what you can make happen and things that can be done. And this is only the beginning, I think, for a lot of us. People are going to realize, yourself included on this, my friend, people are going to realize, we have a lot of talented people around here and lots of good things that are happening. And I can't believe I'm going to quote this song, but their time is up, our time is now.
Yeah.
Can't believe I quoted that song, but that worked.
I like how you did that, because I got a question in that genre to hit you about eventually here. But no, I agree with you completely, and it's a thing where, again, it's good to have you as a new member officially with the 21st Century Media Alliance with your whole Jake Digman movement that you've got going here, to have you in the tent here with a lot of other people that are doing the same kind of networking and everything. And you and I had also discussed off air about the situation, frankly, that you and I and a number of us in the last couple of years at what was, I guess, the breeding ground of Sports Talk Network. And it's a thing where people will come and people will go, and certainly we saw that be the case. But I always had it in my head, Jake, that I didn't want to let go of working with people just because they might not be at a certain place anymore or not. And that's part of the reason FDH sprung up the way that it did. What can we do to kind of keep this whole thing going here? So the chance to continue to do shows with you, with Kyle Ross, with Mike Petak, ideally a pro wrestling one with all of you guys in the not too distant future here. But I've done these things with them recently here. We've had some other gatherings of them. This is the kind of stuff that we want to keep doing.